From the PGA Tour legend letting his former caddy go to another golfer, to him approaching the end of the road and considering retirement, Tiger Woods' former caddy reveals the sad reality about the golfer. This is something that fans aren't going to be happy about. After all, he's hands down the best player to ever wield a golf club. And even with all the controversies he's been involved in over the past decade and a half, people still absolutely love it whenever they see him return to the golf course. But, of course, with his horrific car crash in 2021 and all the injuries he's had from before that, things haven't been great for Woods lately. So much so that he had to withdraw from the 2023 Masters because he couldn't even walk. Yep, his ankle injury's gotten real bad, and he's had to get surgery done on it. And now, to put even more salt in the fans' wounds, Tiger Woods has permanently split with his longtime caddy, Joe LaCava. Of course, if you've been following the PGA Tour star for a long time, you'd know that LaCava has been his caddy throughout his career. In fact, if anything, Joe's been with Tiger during the hardest part of his career, which can both be a good and a bad thing. Good, because he's been incredibly loyal to the legend, sticking with him even when he wasn't playing because of all the injuries and controversies. But bad, because Woods hasn't been very successful over the past decade. Now Joe's been with Tiger since 2011, meaning he hasn't seen much golf action with him as a caddy. Well, not as much as regular golfers anyway. With the PGA Tour legend's condition getting worse though, he hasn't seen any action over the past couple of years. Seriously, Woods couldn't even last through a couple of events in 2023 and is now supposedly out for the entire season. So, to make sure that LaCava was still getting work and wasn't just sitting around doing nothing, Tiger Woods has decided to part ways with him and let him go pursue something more stable and regular. So, who's he caddying for now? Well, he's joined Patrick Cantlay. Oh, and get this, he's not leaving Woods because of any disagreement or anything like that. In fact, the Golf Channel's Todd Lewis says that this move has the blessing of Woods. Now that's fantastic, isn't it? In an interview with the PGA Tour website, Joe spilled the beans about how his conversation went with Tiger. And according to him, they've been talking about this whole thing for a while now. He said that he's always had the understanding with Tiger that if a good opportunity does come up for him, he'll be free to pursue it. So when Cantlay approached LaCava to be his caddy, it was like the perfect chance for him to get back into some regular golf, especially now that Woods has been sidelined for an extended amount of time. As a matter of fact, Joe also revealed that when he told Tiger about the offer, the PGA Tour legend said that he'd be crazy to not take the job. So Woods told LaCava to go forward, win some tournaments, and go have a great time. I mean, that's obviously great for Joe, Tiger, and Cantlay, but what makes this whole interaction surprising is that Woods doesn't have the best history of treating his caddies well. I mean, remember when he fired his previous caddy, Steve Williams, just because he worked part-time for Adam Scott? Like, Tiger was sidelined and couldn't have played anyway, which made this move a bit crazy. That being said, the golfer does seem to be in a different mood these days. After all, he has been through a lot over the past few years. Let's talk about his ankle injury first, because even though he's got a bunch of issues with his back too, this is the main reason why he's been sidelined for now. You see, Tiger's car crash in 2021 left him with a bunch of injuries, including some really bad fractures in his leg. The worst one, though, was the plantar fasciitis, which essentially restricts his walking because of the pain in his ankle. In fact, the more he walks, the worse it gets since the friction in his ankle joint leads to some nasty inflammation. Now, Woods has been taking care of his injury quite well, limiting his time on the golf course and only competing in events that are important to him. He revealed during one of his press conferences in 2022 that his aim is to play all 4 major championships every season and a bunch of other events if he's fit enough. Besides, that seemed like a very achievable goal for him back then, since he'd been slowly getting back into the groove, playing a couple of events here and there. But sadly, fate had other things planned for him because after a relatively decent outing at the 2023 Genesis Invitational, it all fell apart at the Masters. Sure, he made the cut and could have even competed for a top 20 position, but his ankle was just not cooperating, forcing him to withdraw from the event after that. And even though fans hoped it'd be a quick recovery, it sadly wasn't, because Tiger decided to finally get a fusion surgery on his ankle. Now, the real issue with Woods wasn't that he couldn't take his shots well. I mean, his 4 under 67 round 3 at Genesis was proof enough that he still had it in him. Not to mention, his driving distance has been decent as well. So, the only issue for him was that he just couldn't walk around the course anymore. As a matter of fact, he looked like he was in pain every time he walked after taking a shot, and that obviously took a toll on his stamina and concentration as well. Oh, and you'll notice that if you look at some of the rounds he played in 2023 too, because truth be told, his long game and drives were fantastic. The only thing that was missing was his putting, which you could say happened because he'd be too fatigued by the end of a hole. So, this fusion surgery essentially eliminates all pain from his ankle by fusing his bones together. That's great news. But, of course, as with everything, there are downsides to the surgery too, with the biggest one being limited movement in his ankle. Tiger is lucky that the surgery is not on the ankle he uses while driving, meaning it's not going to drastically affect his swing. Still, there's a possibility that he'd have to adjust his game a bit, which could lead to a drop in quality. I don't think most people would mind though, because all they want is to see Tiger back on the golf course. Seriously, every single player who spoke at the Masters after his withdrawal wished him well, saying they hope to see him recover soon and get back to competing again. Plus, you've got to remember, a lot of these players grew up watching Tiger, so they do idolize him. In fact, these days, it's almost an honor for golfers to play alongside him, and all the cameras on him throughout the tournament. Now that can be a good thing or a bad thing, because it does take the attention away from the event itself. But when you've got the greatest golfer to ever walk the earth competing again, I'd say that's a sacrifice worth making. And of course, in this moment when the sport is going through some massive changes with the PGA Tour merger, everyone needs him to be the leader he's been. The other golfers want it, the executives want it, and of course, the fans want it too. Sadly though, we're probably never going to see Tiger Woods be a regular feature on the tour anymore. I know, it's a tough pill to swallow, but that's just how things are right now. While the PGA Tour legend is obviously recovering well after his surgery right now, there's no timeline on when he's actually going to make a return, or if he'll return at all. Most estimates put his return around the 2024 Masters, which, if it happens, would be a big deal considering he retired from the same event the year before. What's more, Joe LaCava also hinted during his tour interview that the golfer's not going to play much going forwards and that he's going to keep things limited to 2 to 6 tournaments a year. Oh, and yeah, he also confirmed that Tiger isn't thinking of retirement just yet. Honestly, this would be the ideal scenario for Woods and the fans because even all 4 majors in the season sounds like a bit of a stretch right now. That being said, even if he doesn't end up playing on the PGA Tour again, and he has to retire from regular golf because of his injuries, at least he's still got the TGL, which is his and Rory McIlroy's indoor golf league that won't require much movement. So there you have it. From him approaching the end of the road and contemplating retirement, to the PGA Tour legend letting his former caddy go to another golfer. That's what Tiger Woods' former caddy revealed about the golfer's sad reality.